Christ as our life, law versus grace. In this Christ as our life message, we will answer the question, although the Bible says we are under grace, are we living under grace or are we living under law? Law versus grace, under law or under grace. If you ask Christians if they are under law or under grace, most would say they are under grace. We have been told we are under grace, and the Bible says we are under grace, so we must be under grace. Absolutely, objectively, we are under grace. But in our daily living, are we living under grace or are we living under law? Objectively, we may be under grace, but subjectively in our experience, are we living under grace? Characteristics of living under law. Number 1, have to perform, do something. Number 2, requires self-effort, working. 3, have to meet a standard. 4, dependence on ourselves. 5, condemnation when unable to meet the standard. 6, failure to meet the standard results in more self-effort, working, and failure. When we become Christians, we are told as Christians we need to do certain things. We are supposed to pray, read our Bibles, witness to others, love others, tithe, and many more things. These things are a law to us and require us to perform and work by our own effort. We are told to ask God to help us perform these things, to depend on Him. The church leaders and organization will provide literature and teach us methods that will supposedly enable us to meet the requirements of this law. Of course, the standard presented to us is to live like Jesus. When we are unable to live like Jesus by following the law that was given to us, we condemn ourselves. We seek forgiveness for our failure and try harder. We are told this struggle is normal for the Christian life. This is not a picture of living under grace. Characteristics of living under grace. Number 1, God doing for us, grace. 2, no self-effort. 3, no requirement to perform. 4, no standard to meet. 5, rest in our soul instead of working. 6, living in total dependence on God instead of dependence on ourselves. 7, living by the life of Christ instead of living by our self-life. Living under grace is a life lived by faith. It is a life of rest, experiencing oneness with the one who created us. The standard of living like Jesus is accomplished by Christ Himself, who will live out His life through us. See Galatians 2:20. It is a life we ourselves can never live. Christ living through us will meet the righteous requirements of God's law. See Romans chapter 8, verse 4. Christ living through us will do the Father's will and accomplish God's work. This is a picture of living under grace. Summary. Unfortunately, very few Christians are actually living under grace in their experience. When we try to perform, work by our own effort, depend on ourselves, we are living under law. We are still living by the self-life we received when we were born. As a result, the only way we can live is by self-effort and self-dependency. We are living from our soul instead of from our spirit. At the cross, God terminated the life we received from Adam in our soul and replaced it with the life of Christ in our spirit. This exchange of life occurred when God included us in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. We were born again with the new life of Christ in our spirit. Therefore, we are now able to live by the life of Christ in our spirit. This enables us to continually experience a life under grace instead of a life under law. This exchange of life can only be experienced by faith in the completed work of the cross. We cannot experience it by our effort. When we exercise faith, God by grace will cause us to experience this exchanged life. See the Christ as our life messages on Romans 6 and the work of the cross.